usually the opposite of uniformity, but the shifts in time form a certain parity. With the gesture of buttons comes clarity.
Blessings, y'all. Buttons. Uniformly, randomly, in search of paradise clarity. And I had a thought. So it's commonly expressed, and I've said it before, to each his own. To each his own. To each his own. And I agree with this sentiment for many reasons, because, folks have their own way of doing things, right? However, if your seeds are being grown in a soil that is not going to yield fruit, we need to examine why that is. So yeah, to each his own, but if your seeds ain't grown, I'm going to have to call it out, because you can say it and, you can also spray it. And if you spraying it, I'm involved, because now I'm reacting to the, it's like talking like talking to someone and it's the spit that just comes out their mouth. This is why we wear masks, people. Anyway, or if you're talking with your mouth full, I don't recommend it, because you're spitting. So it's like you're saying it, but you're spraying it. Somehow this video led to wearing a mask. That's when you're spraying it. But if you're saying it, you got to examine that contradiction, etc. That's what my acronym for ETC stands for. Examine that contradiction. You see what's up with that. Buttons. URISOPC. Lessons. Uniformly, randomly, in search of paradise clarity, and this is Eclipsed Hanger, which is a poem I just finished writing. It's a surprise to myself because it belongs in the category of regurgitation of information, regurgitation of information, regurgitation of information. Yeah. I want to say that's one of the first times I did that this year, because I sort of put regurgitation of information into 2024 folder, but this is an ongoing project that's still going. It's a project that includes the method of me recycling old poems into new poems. So for a lot of last year, the poems that I released were old poems that I made into a new poem. So it falls in line with the concept of that, because this poem, Eclipsed Hanger, is a mix of 3 other poems that I wrote. I will read the post and then I'll read the poem. Today is May 14th, 2025. I'm writing this letter to myself to reflect on what's happened recently. In 6 days, 33 will see me. As I sit here, a lot of things come to mind. For one, a decade ago, January 7th, 2015, I moved to Minneapolis in 2015. Around that time, I was on the edge of expectations, given all that the purple world had shown me. It was the first time I had moved to another state by myself, and I was already surrounded by lovely friends. I had gained those friends because of my explosion into the purple vortex. I don't need to explain what it was like for me. I've already detailed many of those experiences in a separate video that you can watch in the description. Nonetheless, I was 22, 23, and 2015, and I was on the cusp of significant changes. I describe this as such because a common phenomenon happens when you have plastic hangers. The head can easily be chopped off. The sound of the break resembles a crack of the knuckles. Once the hook is snapped off, there's little one can do to repair it. Editor's note: as I was writing this piece, it occurred to me that I could superglue the head back on, but that was wrong. I searched everywhere for the superglue because it wasn't in my house of where I usually keep it. Turns out it was in my car in the same bag I had put it when I got it a week ago. The cracked lines contain a shallow hole where the sides are too thin to put back together. I could wrap the head back with some tape, but what would be the point of these plastic hangers? I got them because I have a large closet and I prefer to see my clothes hanging out rather than folded. My underwear, socks, muscle t-shirts, ties, handkerchiefs, and button garbs go into the chest drawers. Everything else is hung using a wired sponge, stainless steel, flocked wooden or plastic hanger. The plastic ones crack often because they're a lonely hook with nothing to support its body. Essentially, they have no real body because there's no function of the body if not attached to the head. This is when art plays a role in charting your levels. I've decided to keep the hangers that become eclipsed. Slowly but surely, I'll walk away from plastic ones because they're too drastic. The velvet adjacent hangers don't crack and hold together satin and silk much better anyway. Anyways, another recent misfortune was leaving a pin inside my two-piece suit as it went for a wash. Of course, after realizing this, my heart was pounding because I thought about all of the clothes that could have been affected by this mistake. To my surprise, the only item that required a lot of effort to remove the ink was my pants. Everything else had no stains. It took a lot of baking powder, dishwashing liquid, and elbow grease to get at least 85% of the ink out. This makes me not only cautious about removing things from the pockets, but also to pay close attention to the process. Regardless of the process, attention to the before is paramount. I've always found myself inspired by the smallest of things because upon further examination, they make things enlarge and take a broader form than before. By asking questions and building on the already made out thing, we begin to fly off into a more readily available realm. We create out of the creation, making out of what has already been baked. And here is the poem that I wrote to describe this feeling. Eclipsed Hanger. Crescent tongue eating at the luminous sheet, wrapping between a savory and sweet treat. But I'm feeling some type of way. But it's not you, it's me. It's the dying tree that I see swallowed up inside. Truths I can no longer hide, revealed to be a sight that is seen, a flight that has landed as a routine, commanded via stranded tendencies, reflexes backhanded penalties. All morning, all day, and all afternoon, tons of tongues that night spoke way too soon. Though we are a little behind, our lumpy shadows have twined. Now the lightning has written in cursive, a shape that's murky and unlined. Today, tomorrow, and tongue night 'twas trapped to tasting troubling trauma that's terrified towards trickery tombstone. Scabs soon formed, tabs moon stormed. In taking away much needed time, the inner making may betray a seeded rhyme. I wish I knew the levels ahead of me when seeds finally grow into oak trees which host bumblebees. However, that takes years, and that means plenty of tears and a juggernaut of time waiting. While a new to full moon is glaring through the midnight sky, phases are blended by a multicolored sigh. It's never just one element at play, but a cornered hide and seek in the disarray. In gathering my bedazzled rags to hang, the head became eclipsed, broke right in half where the clip was ventured into an unforeseen dip. The weight of the pounded grab could not withstand its fragile stab. Pressure on the neck so steep the hook has broken into the deep. With clothes intended on the rail, thin satin fabrics fall off like unsent mail. Regurgitation of information, regurgitation of information, regurgitation of information. Featuring Tongue Night, July 21st, 2020. All the Smoke, October 28th, 2024. Exhibition Premonition, November 14th, 2023. Eclipsed Hanger, May 14th, 2025. uniformly randomly in search of paradise clarity.